We're going to deep dive now into social media marketing for the next half an hour. The evolution of social media in the latest decade has made it a key channel for marketing and customer engagement. But the big question often remains unanswered: what is the ROI when you're looking at social media marketing? So in this next session, you're going to learn how to understand the key factors that drive social ROI and discover a path to measuring what matters to you in business today. Before joining Zoho in 2012, our next presenter co-founded a digital media agency that helped large brands like Samsung and Suzuki with their digital media and product launch strategies. So he knows a fair bit about this space. Between agency work and his time with Zoho, he's had the opportunity to take part in product management, marketing, business development, and also a little bit of evangelism on the side. Please give him a warm welcome. Our next presenter, Praval Singh.
Hi everyone. So nice to see you guys. I'm all the way from New Delhi, India, and it's my first time in Australia, and love to be here. This is not a workshop, and it's not even a masterclass. It's a short presentation, and my objective is to get you thinking about social media marketing a little bit differently. How many of you have some form of association with social media marketing in a business context? I know all of us are on Facebook and Twitter personally, but then from a business standpoint, how many of you have used social media in some form or the other? Advertising, content publishing, whatever. All right. So what gets you excited about social media? 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, there was no social media, right? Things changed in the last 2 decades. So if you can think of one thing that gets you excited the most, what would that be? If I look at it, there are 2 sides of it. One is the brand side of things. The medium has led brands to be able to engage with their customers, which was never done before social media, if you think about it. All the messaging, advertising, engagement, so-called whatever, was one way. Brands would show you something, whether or not you like it, you can't do anything about it. From the consumer side of things, today, if I buy a phone and I'm unhappy about it, I can tweet about it. I can share my experiences with it. I can blog about it. There's a dialogue between the brand and the consumers. Now that's something which is, for me, the most exciting thing that social media has introduced in our lives. And this generation, I would say, is very fortunate to be here. The next generation probably won't even think of it this way. Also, these facts are another reason why social media is so powerful, so huge. 800 million users like something on Facebook every day, which is what, like 30 times of the population of Australia? More than that. More than 70% of teenagers today, the young generation, the Gen Y, they look at YouTube videos to sort of base their opinion on something. You know, they trust the social influencers more than the traditional celebrities. And a lot of brands have sort of caught up to this trend as well. Almost 3/4 of Twitter users use the medium Twitter to get news from it, right? And cats. Yeah, okay. I'm not kidding. 15% of the internet traffic today is cat-related. Honestly, I knew cat was big on internet, but I didn't know these stats until I started making this presentation. You know, CNN estimated that there could be over 6.5 billion cat pictures on the internet, and YouTube today has over 2 million cat videos. But then in all this, you know, that moment of truth, where is the ROI? You know, what's the ROI of all of this? Social media is not new anymore. It's been around for almost 2 decades, at least 15 years. So what's the ROI? We'll try to talk about that today, a bit of it, okay? My name is Praval. I work at Zoho. I'm part of the product marketing leadership team. I've been there for 6+ years now, and my background, as Tony said, was into digital media agency in India. I founded one in 2008. I've been closely associated with social media marketing, digital media in India for several years now. Peter Drucker is one of my favorite management thinkers. I love this quote from him. It said, if you can't measure it, you can't improve. Right? If you think about it, that applies to pretty much everything we do, back at school or at our work In a recent survey, we're talking about CMOs here, right? Close to half of them said that they've not been able to measure the impact of social media on their business, though they've been doing social media for years. And it's not the only stat that you would have seen. You would have seen so many such stats over the years that what's the ROI on social media? Be it a specific region, a specific product line, all of that. But what's the whole deal about ROI? What's the obsession with ROI and the way we look at it, or the way we've been looking at it for so many years? Well, it gets you a promotion. Okay? And that's one of the things, but it is. So much so that 3 weeks ago, I stumbled on this article. Quite a clickbait, but it had this formula that tells you how to calculate ROI and get a promotion. See, easy, right? Straightforward. Look at the formula again. Everybody in the room knows this formula. It's a no-brainer. It's quite easy. Well, maybe not. Because the problem with that is you have to define what the ROI is for you. Look at this newspaper ad. It's by Google on Chrome. What's the ROI of this? How do you measure it? Right? What's the ROI of these billboards, the Times Square or elsewhere? How do you measure this? Any direct? Can you apply the same formula here? Maybe not. What's the ROI of this TV ad? We see all of them, right? On TV, on YouTube, elsewhere. Or let's just say, what's the ROI of being at this event? If that was it, what's the ROI of being here? And it could be different for different people, right? Because the objective of me being here could be very different from someone else being here, right? Someone could be here for learning, while someone else could be here for talking to prospects or customers or lead generation or any of these, right? ROI means different things to different people. Here's a question. How many of you know how to play a guitar? Okay, I see some hands up. Okay. How many of you would love to learn how to play a guitar? More hands up. Okay. So what's the ROI of a guitar? Any guesses? Okay. How many of you know this guy? Okay. Well, for this guy, the ROI of guitar is probably 250 million. Right? Well, Eric Clapton, 18 Grammy Awards, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and whatnot. So for him, the ROI of the guitar was probably 250 million. Even for this street artist, the ROI of the guitar would be quite a lot. And that's my guitar. ROI? 0. Because it's been hanging on a wall a week later since I bought it. I never figured it out, how to play it. It's the same guitar, or a similar guitar as Eric Clapton's, I would say. Maybe a less expensive one, but still a guitar. So ROI of guitar for me is 0. So next time somebody meets you and asks you a question about what's the ROI of a guitar, you know the answer. Like I said, ROI means different things to different people. And there's no point talking about the ROI unless you've defined the objective, the goal. Be it an event, be it a newspaper ad, be it a conference that you are at, an ad campaign that you're running, a landing page that you have. Anything that you're doing in social media or in the larger sense in your business depends on what the ROI is, or what the objective is. I've set out a small framework that will help you it's a sort of a insight into understanding how to measure ROI, starting right. It's a simple framework of strategy, a small process, and some tools. That sort of forms any simple framework. Start by asking yourself, what is it that you've set out to achieve? What's your goal, right? That's where you start. That's number one. Because ROI of every social media activity or any initiative that you take is always linked to the objective that you started with. So number one, define key objectives and the performance indicators for those objectives. KPIs are nothing but sort of parameters that would help you measure that if you're on the right track or not. And your objectives could be awareness or branding or impressions or leads. I mean, of course, all of that ties into revenue in some way or the other. But it could be any of these. You could have different objectives. Let's say your objective is awareness. So in terms of KPIs, what are you measuring? What are you going to measure? Let's say you're running a Facebook ad, for example. You would look at impressions. You would look at engagement. Impressions is nothing but how many people saw it, which is directly related with awareness. If your objective is website visits, you're running a Facebook ad, but you're just running it for the sake of bringing people to your website or a page, okay? So what do you want to measure? Well, how many people clicked on it? How many people came from that source and viewed your page? How many people bounced off that page, right? So these are linked with your website visit objective. And let's say you're doing social media marketing for sales, right? You're directly associating that activity or initiative with the number of leads or conversion or even revenue that your potentials or revenue that you generate from a particular activity. So those would be your KPIs in that case. Next is align your social media strategy and initiatives with your objectives, okay? What do I mean with that? So you have a goal defined, you know what you're looking for. You're looking for impressions, you're looking for sign-ups or whatever that is. What you do next should be aligned with that. So for example, if your objective is awareness, okay, one of the things you could do is create value-based content and optimize it with your social advertising strategy, which is aligned with impressions. How many of you have run a Facebook ad ever? Okay. So a Facebook ad, a Twitter ad, a LinkedIn ad, whatever. If you look at it, these platforms are designed the same way. If you go to set up an ad on Facebook, one of the first things it will ask you is, what is your objective? Because different ad formats are designed for different objectives. So it's the same thought process behind the design of the platform itself, right? Sometimes we don't realize we are just looking at setting up an ad and we don't know what to do. We have a budget assigned, we want something out of it, and we start an ad. But the different ad formats for different objectives. So if your objective is awareness, create content. Content marketing is a big thing. I'm not going to talk about it today here, but then all of us know what content marketing is and how brands are increasingly moving towards being a content-centric company from an advertising-centric company. The next step, and we're already seeing a transition towards that, is content mixed with advertising, okay? So creating good content and augmenting that with your social media advertising strategy is a good first step if your objective is awareness. And let's say your objective is website visits, then what do you want your Facebook ad or Twitter ad or any ad that you're running is to optimize for clicks. You don't want people to be commenting on that post, right, and not clicking on it, because your objective is to take people to your website. So there's a contrast between the kind of objectives that we can talk about. I've just taken 2 examples because there's a limited time here, but I'm happy to talk more details about how you optimize your objective and KPIs and the activities that you do. You can optimize your social campaigns for link clicks in case you want website traffic and not there for just awareness. So that was some bit of strategy, some process, And the last part of it is tools. Identify tools that you think would work for you. Okay, so I come from a company where we create tools for businesses of all sizes, and our tools are largely around helping businesses do their thing. So it could be managing your customers using a CRM, getting a work email, Office suite, your HR, your invoicing, all of that. So we have an entire suite. But when people ask me, and a lot of friends and acquaintances would ask me, okay, I'm starting out a business, can you suggest a CRM that I should get started with? Or do you have a suggestion for which is the right social media tool for us? So my suggestion is the right tool is the one that works for you. There's no right tool. There's no right tool for everybody. Because that's the reason why all the companies exist today, because something works for someone and something else works for somebody else. So identify tools that are your friends. I would split that into 3 sections. One is, of course, a social media tool to manage your social media, preferably one that talks to your CRM. I would get into a bit of a detail with this point in the next slide. Next is Google Analytics and UTM codes. I mean, as a digital marketer, if this is one of the first few things when we hire people and we work with them, this is one of the first few things, if you're a performance marketer, we would get you familiar with. Start using Google Analytics and UTM codes because it helps you measure what you're doing. And similarly, social pixels, which is a similar thing like UTM code, but then it works for social media advertising. In all of this, when we talk about measurement on social media or digital marketing, attribution is the key. What I mean is, something happened. Now, what led to that is pretty much what attribution is, and it's very important to know. If I did 5 things, and more than 50% of my objective was met via one of them, I need to know which one is that. And that's what attribution helps you with. Now, it's been done in different ways. So it's easy to attribute an email marketing campaign today. It's easy to attribute a PPC campaign today. But how do you attribute social media to your leads, your potentials, revenue? So that's what I said. The tool that works for you could be any of the tools available in the market, but then you have to see what you're trying to achieve. If your objective is to measure or have a sense of where are my leads coming from? Are they coming from Facebook or from Twitter? Okay, and how many leads did I get last month from Twitter or Facebook? So if that's what you're looking for, try to find a tool that talks to your CRM. Or, that's a simpler way of putting it, but essentially it integrates with your CRM, right? The screenshot is from Zoho Social, our social media management tool, which helps you generate leads, attribute them to different networks, tells you who's the lead owner, and things like that. Next is the Google Analytics and UTM code that I spoke about. So when you're creating a URL for a campaign, it's very important to have a UTM code, which would carry information such as the source that you're running it, the medium that it's running on, name of the campaign, and then you get a URL, which is something like this. Wherever you use it, it'll help you understand and track the activity of visitors coming to your website from the specific campaign where you use this. Similarly, the Facebook pixel, it's basically you create an ad, you have a landing page where you're taking people to for conversion or purchase or sign up, whatever your objective or goal is. When someone visits that page, the pixel fires up, and then you know that someone had visited that page. And then eventually, as someone moves on to the next and the next and the next phase or the funnel of your purchase cycle, you get to track their behavior. And in the hindsight, you also get to know which are the campaigns that are performing the best. The good part about that is, once someone has seen that ad, you can actually see whether or not they clicked on it. Did that ad come in the journey of that buyer? Okay, so there are very intense insights into your journey of a typical customer if you're running an ad campaign using Facebook Pixel or Twitter Pixel or any of these pixels. So that's about the ROI, of how we look at it, how we've been looking at it for so many years, and a simple framework on start with the objective, start with why. Simon Sinek, one of my favorite thought leaders, it's a popular book. If you've not read it, I would highly recommend. It's called Start with Why. So start with why, start with the objective of what you've set out to achieve. And we've spoken about the importance of the ROI and how measurement is important, and this has been on for, I've seen it for 15 years already. When you talk to a business, when you talk to, as an agency, I had an agency in the past, so we would talk to customers, which were basically businesses. And every time this question would come on the table, okay, so we would do this, but what's the ROI? You know? And back then, there weren't enough tools that would attribute social media to things like leads and revenue and any of these other matrices. So today, let's flip the question. You know, I want to leave this stage here with a question, and I'm happy to take questions from you, and I'd love to see the responses from you on Twitter. I'm available on Twitter as well. My handle is @Praval. What's the cost of not having a social strategy? Why don't people ask this question instead of how many of you are an agency here or work for an agency? Okay, so next time when you're at a table trying to sell that to a business that you need social media management, you need a better social strategy, next time when someone asks you a question that what's the ROI of that, I would suggest asking a question, what's the cost of not having a social strategy? What's the opportunity cost of not being there when everybody's there as a brand? So any questions that you have around your social media strategy, either as a business or as an agency? I'm happy to take them.
Hi. We've got a Facebook channel that's just really underperforming. We're pretty good on LinkedIn and Instagram, but I just don't think our buyers relate to Facebook. It's a pretty basic question, but do you think it's better to have a Facebook page that doesn't sort of accomplish our goals, just have the presence on Facebook?
Can you tell me what kind of business is it? What do you do?
So we manufacture belt conveyor equipment for mines.
Okay, so that's like a hardcore engineering-focused audience,
Yes.
right? And you feel that your audience is not on Facebook?
No.
Have you done some research around it? Okay. Yeah. So in that case, I would flip the objective for my company as on Facebook. It might not be lead generation. It might not be finding the next customer, but I would use that channel. I'll give you an example. So we at Zoho, we are pretty active on Facebook and Twitter. We do have a Instagram profile. But a typical customer of ours doesn't, we are not targeting teenagers or the younger generation who would be like putting out stories every other hour, right? But we have a presence there. It helps us in multiple things. One is to represent ourselves as a brand, who we are, to answer that question on that medium, right? Next is to attract talent. When people know about you and you're looking for talent, it helps the younger generation know who we are and then aspire to work for us. So these are two objectives that we use that particular medium for. So I would recommend that, and it's with everybody. Not all networks work for every business because they have different, like Snapchat, for example. I was in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago at a conference, and someone walked up to me later on, and the lady, she makes crayons, right? And is super active on Snapchat, but hasn't figured out LinkedIn. And she was concerned about, okay, LinkedIn is the B2B business network. What do I do on LinkedIn? I said, you don't have to do anything in there. You have a profile you engage with, maybe for some B2B leads or deals that you want to close, but your audience is already there and you have such a big following, so you don't have to worry about the other network. I would still encourage to have a presence there, but then change your objective for that. Man. Don't try to have the same objective, I would say, for every channel. Yeah?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir, you have a question?
G'day, mate. That was great, thanks.
Thank you.
You mentioned attribution earlier. It's a pretty chewy subject for probably a lot of people in this room, but obviously different attribution models work for different businesses, but what's your approach to choosing a particular attribution model?
Attribution for us is, I would say, when you use pixels, when you use Google Analytics, when you use UTM codes in separate channels. For example, I'm running a landing page campaign and I'm sort of pushing it out using Facebook. Or I have a separate landing page for some other act, let's say recruitment, and I'm doing ad on LinkedIn. Each one of these would have a UTM code that will help me understand where the traffic is coming from. Similarly, when I'm using Zoho Social for social media, and I set out, let's say I publish an organic post on my Facebook page. Somebody liked it, somebody commented on it, okay? I could set rules, okay, within Zoho Social to bring in leads from people who've liked or commented. Let's say I could set a rule which say, somebody who comments on the page saying, I'm interested in X, whatever, okay? Using those keywords, I could attribute that lead coming in from Facebook, have it within the social tool, push it to CRM, and then let my sales team follow up on that. Or let's say I'm running a Facebook lead ad campaign, okay? And all those leads are coming into Zoho Social directly, in my case. I see them, I review them, and then I just, with one click of a button, I push them to CRM, and then my sales team follows up on it. So it's the integration between the tools and using the right attribution method, GTM in this case, UTM in this case, and the social pixels that help me identify where are these people coming from, which essentially is attribution. Does that help? Thank you.
Okay, we're actually out of time. I know there was a question ready to go, so that's your first question when you get back to your stand over there. Please thank Praval, Singh, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much.